Hey, this is Mark, Circle of the Dark Mother. We're going to do another reading from the Embracing Lilith myth. This is part 15. Chapter 14. So Moses said, "This is what the Lord says. About midnight, I will go throughout Egypt. Every firstborn son in Egypt will die, from the firstborn son of Pharaoh, who sits on the throne, to the firstborn son of the female slave, who is her handmill, and all the firstborn of the cattle as well. There will be loud wailing throughout Egypt, worse than there has ever been or ever will be again." Exodus 4:6. I was traveling through the Middle East and I heard much talk about the Pharaoh of Egypt. People told of this Pharaoh building great monuments to his gods and using Semitic workers who had settled in their land years before for the backbreaking task. I knew of Egypt and of the Israelites and other Semitic people living in the land. Some of the Israelites were the descendants of Seth, Adam and Eve's third son. So I took particular interest when I heard a new prophet had arisen to liberate the people from their labor. He pledged to help them claim the land promised to them by Yahweh. The new prophet, whose name seemed to be Moshe or something similar, was rumored to have once been a prince of Egypt. I found it a little confusing that a prince of Egypt would be called forth by Yahweh to take the Israelites to this promised land, but I often did not understand the workings of Yahweh. I chose to ignore the situation because the last thing I wanted to do was get in the middle of whatever Yahweh planned. However, as I kept traveling, I suddenly felt energy moving, and I knew I was not alone. Before me appeared the three angels, Sinoi, Sensinoi, and Semengeloth. Their presence annoyed me a little less this time than it had in the past. The last time we met, they had come to bring me a message from Elohim. I hoped Elohim had employed the angels as messengers once again. I raised my eyebrows expectantly. The three simply stared at me. I decided I didn't want to wait and broke the silence. "So what news do you bring me?" Sensinoi spoke apprehensively and said, "You won't like it." "Probably not Elohim then." "What now?" was my only reply. Smengeloff answered, "Yahweh has sent us to command you to action." "Yahweh commands?" At first I expressed rage, but then I burst out laughing. "Yahweh commands? Does he now? Did he forget I'm the one who defied him and saved humanity?" "Yahweh forgets nothing." "Why would I do anything he commands?" "Because Samael is in Egypt and Yahweh wants you to get help to go help free the Israelites from his control." Well, he had me at that one. Samael was my creation and my problem. I hadn't sensed him since he took Cain away, and Yahweh assumed correctly that I would rise to the occasion to go stop whatever Samael planned to enact. "Fine, what does he want me to do?" Semengeloff began to speak, but to my surprise, Sansonoi interrupted and answered, "We don't know. We were taking you to Egypt and receive further instructions." We rose to the air and flew to Egypt. When we arrived, we found the country devastated with bloody red water, frogs and gnats everywhere, dead livestock, and destruction from hail and burning rocks. Everything was in shambles, and people suffered beyond anything seen since the flood. I couldn't even imagine how anyone had survived these conditions. What could Yahweh possibly want from me after he had unleashed such devastation? We waited and waited. Eventually, Smengeloff was called to receive more instructions, and he disappeared in a flash of light. When he returned, the look he gave me surprised me. It resembled pity. Smengeloff had never shown me pity, only disdain. The other two angels and I looked at him expectantly. Smengeloff hesitated and said, "Yahweh has a mission for you, Lilith. He wants you to go through the royal city tonight, and he wants you to kill the firstborn male in every home if it is not protected with a sigil and blood above the door." Sonoy and Sansonoi gaped. They wore the same expression of their countenances. Once I had never seen on an angel. "What? I won't do it. What does he think I am?" "He said you're the only being he could call on capable of such slaughter." The look of horror must have been so great on my face that Smengeloff whispered, "I'm sorry." I turned and began to walk away. I wouldn't do such a thing. How dare he believe me so heartless and so evil? I heard a voice call out for me from behind. "Lilith?" I turned and saw Cain standing with the three angels. "Cain!" I ran to my adopted son and grabbed him in a tight embrace. He hugged me back hard. Tears streamed down my face and I couldn't even speak clearly. "It's okay, it's okay." He patted me on the back and finally said, "You have to do what he wants." He pulled back and and I looked at him in horror. How can you say that? I'm sorry, but you must. It's the only way to defeat Samael. How? Why? Cain teared up as he spoke. Samael is controlling the Pharaoh and his priests. He has brought them to a point of madness, and they will kill all the Israelites if they try to leave. He may even kill them if they stay. I can't do this, I sobbed. You have to. These are my brother's people. This is the legacy of Seth, the legacy of my mother and father. These people have a destiny. If they don't live, this world will never be what it is meant to be. But how will slaughtering the innocent stop him? Grief and love will be the only way to break his hold on the Egyptians, allowing them to set the Israelites and other Semitic people free. After a pause, he added, I must return to Samael before he realizes I've left. I took to the streets, moving like a mist or fog from house to house. Houses with the sigil in blood repelled me, but any place which did not bear the sigil drew me in. Somehow he instinctively knew the firstborn males, and to each of them I brought death. I would reach out and engulf them in darkness, removing all light from their bodies and leaving a husk of what once lived. There was wailing and screaming, but I remained oblivious because I was death, my only purpose to kill. At dawn, every firstborn not protected by the sigil breathed no more. I don't specifically remember Cain dying, but I knew he was gone, and I had been the method of his destruction. I returned to where I had left Sonoy, Sansanoy, and Semengaloth. As the sun's rays came down, light filtered back into my astral body, and I regained any sense of self in any form. Sonoy looked at me and said, Are you all right? I looked at him through eyes still black as night and said, This is what I've become.